So what helps you get ahead faster? Making more money or spending less money? I hear this quite often, and people think that they can't reach their personal financial goals because they don't make enough money. And that's simply not true. Now, part of the problem could be their paycheck, but an equally important, if not more important part is where the money from their paycheck goes. And it all boils down to the simple principle of if you want to get ahead, you'll need to spend less than you make. Now, without a plan for every dollar, your family will not reach their goals. And the money you work so hard to earn, which you can put to use for you to make even more money, will disappear rapidly. It doesn't matter if you make $40,000 a year, if you're pulling in $100K a year. You have to have a budget so your money keeps flowing in the right direction. Now, this is not financial advice, and I'm not a financial advisor, but if you want to reach your financial goals, one of your top priorities should be to spend less than you make. That means if you haven't already, you need to create a budget. And I'm going to tell you a little secret about my budget. I have and still use this very method for allocating my earnings to the right places. The hack that I use is called the zero-based budget method. And now you may be asking yourself, Kevin, what is the zero-based budget? Well, zero-based budgeting is when your income minus your expenses equals zero. Here, let me give you an example. Let's say you make $3,000 a month. Everything you give, save, or spend should add up to $3,000. Pretty simple. For every dollar that comes in, it has a purpose, a job, a goal. Nothing is left hiding or getting mindlessly spent on unnecessary things you don't know that aren't helping you reach your ultimate personal financial goals. And just to be clear, this doesn't mean that you have $0 in your bank account. It just means that your income minus all your expenses equals zero. Keeping a little buffer of $100 to $300 a month is always a good idea though. So that's kind of what I always do. Now, let's begin. This is how to make a zero-based budget. Before you start making your zero-based budget, log into your bank account or grab those bank statements out of your drawer. They'll come in handy when you're wondering how much you normally make or spend on stuff. Number one, list your monthly income. You can do this the old-fashioned way with a sheet of paper, or you could use a free budgeting app like the one Dave Ramsey uses, EveryDollar. I really like Everyday Dollar because it is simple and easy, and it makes the math that's coming up way easier to calculate. Now, I will include a link so you can download the app if you would like to go check it out. But if you want to get started on paper just to get all the numbers down and then switch over to EveryDollar, that's cool too. So what counts as income? Income will include your regular paychecks and anything extra you plan to bring in during the month. For example, think side hustle or child support. Now, write it all down and add it all up. That's your total monthly income, or what you've got to work with this month. Now that you got that figured out, we're going to move on to the next step. Number two, listing all your expenses. Now that you know what's coming in, it's time to plan for what's going out. Think of everything you spend money on during the month and list out your expenses. Giving, this could be about 10% of your income. Savings, now this depends on your current financial situation, but if you don't have any money going to savings, we're going to work on that later. Your essential monthly bills. These are the top bills to cover: food, utilities, shelter, transportation, and don't forget other essentials like insurance, debts, childcare, etc. And we're going to include extras too. Here's the fun part: entertainment, fun money, restaurants, put that there. It's okay to set aside a part of your budget for fun, but just be conscious of your overall end goals. Now, let's go ahead and add in month-specific expenses, any holidays, celebrations, or semi-annual expenses that you may have due this month. And don't forget to give yourself a miscellaneous category too, so you have a little extra cushion in your spending. That way, anything that pops up unexpectedly isn't a problem because it is in the budget. Now, we're almost done, and you're going to begin seeing results now that you have set up this budget and know where all your money is going each and every month. Now it is time to subtract your income from your expenses to equal zero. When you subtract all those expenses from your income, it should equal zero. If you don't hit zero at first, don't worry, this is perfectly normal. In fact, practically no one gets this right the first time, and that is fine. But let's talk about how to fix it. Got money left over? First, pat yourself on the back. Like, for real, seriously. Okay, now put that money to work. Where? Well, that all depends on where you're currently in your personal financial journey. Following similar principles set out from some of the best managers of money and those among the wealthiest of Americans, there are essentially 6 or 7 steps that can be followed to put you on the path to financial freedom. This is where you can allocate your excess income. Do you have a basic emergency fund? This is about $1,000, give or take, that you have in your checking or savings account or in physical cash that you can have access to in case of emergency. No? Well, then allocating excess income towards this emergency fund will serve you well. Now, paying off all debt. except for your house. We'll get to that later. The previous calculations for expenses were for your minimum payments towards debt. But if you already have your emergency fund stashed away and you're carrying revolving debt, putting excess income towards lowering these principal balances and totally eliminating these debts would be my next focus. If you have a basic emergency fund and you don't have any other debts from car payments, credit cards, or other loans, then you have been making some great financial moves and can look towards saving up for a full emergency fund. This is generally 3 to 6 months worth of expenses that you have socked away just in case shit hits the fan. Placing excess income in this category while building your zero-based budget would be my next focus. After that has been fully funded, allocating excess income towards investing in retirement savings and mutual funds, saving for kids' college, and or paying off your home mortgage early would be my next goals in line. Now, let's talk about what to do if you subtract your planned expenses and end up with a negative number. Now, this means you're spending more than you make, and that just won't work. But don't freak out. We can get that number to zero. Time to get out your metaphorical hedge clippers so you can start trimming that budget. That can mean lowering your planned spending amounts where you're able, or it can mean cutting spending. I have often found, even with my own budget, that starting with the restaurant line is the best way to bring my budget back in check. Food is where most Americans tend to overspend the most. You can also up your income by starting a side hustle, selling things, or finding some other way to make extra money. Now, we'll cover starting side hustles and other ways to make extra money very soon, but I wanted to make sure we have covered the basics first. This way, your side hustles can have your full attention and you won't have any additional distractions taken away from your ability to earn extra and possibly passive income. But for me, making sure I have a solid budget is my top priority. That's it for making the zero-based budget. Now that you have reached that sum of zero, you're all set. Now, having the zero-based budget is only part of the mission. In order for this plan to be effective, you have to hold yourself accountable for your income and expenses. Tracking your expenses all month long should be a primary focus. I wish I could just set up the budget and leave it, but honestly, that gets you literally nowhere with your money. You've got to get in there and track your transactions, every single one of them. That means any money that comes in or goes out gets put into the right budget line. When you start making $100 from your side hustle, add that to the side hustle income. When you pay the rent, subtract that expense from the housing. When you fill up your gas tank, subtract that from the gas budget line under transportation. This is how I stay on top of my spending. This is how I keep from overspending. And then after tracking all my transactions for the month, I sit down a few days before the end of the month and I make a new budget. While it's true your budget won't change a ton month after month, it will change some. So by creating a new zero-based budget every single month, you're already ahead of the game for what's coming your way. Now comment below and tell me, did you already have a budget in place? Were you tracking your expenses? If not, there's nothing to be ashamed about. We're all here to make progress towards financial freedom. We're not here to judge one another. But if you didn't have a budget and didn't track your transactions, tell me if you plan to start now using the zero-based budget method or another method for tracking what is coming in compared to what is going out. I would love to know your plans, so please let me know in the comments below. Now, we will be moving on to passive income and side hustles soon, and you're going to want to make sure that you're fully prepared for that. Now, if you have any questions, please feel free to comment those below. You are on your path to wealth building and financial freedom. You should be proud and feel great about what you're doing for your personal finances as well as for your family. Thank you guys for watching, and I will see you all very, very soon.